The last light in Utqiagvik, cousin, went missing during polar night, when the sun hides for weeks. We searched old houses near the shore. Snow covered the windows like white eyelids. Only one window showed a warm light. It was strange, because that street had no power. The bulb flickered a slow, lazy blink, like a living eye. I walked to the door and called my cousin's name. No answer. Then I saw my face in the glass. But the reflection did not match me. When I raised my hand, the reflection was late by 2 seconds. It smiled when I did not. The doorknob turned by itself, and the light grew brighter. It was the color of bone. I stepped back, and the light dimmed, like it was thinking. I remembered a rule my grandmother told me: keep your light low and walk away. I walked. The house went dark. In the morning, we found our footprints in the snow. There was a third trail beside us. Bare feet, no toes, towed the whistle in the aurora. In a village by a frozen river, a boy whistled at the aurora for fun. The green lights danced, then thinned and fell like long ribbons. The wind stopped. The snow made no sound. Then we heard running, not on the ground, above us. Light, quick steps across the air like drumsticks. Suddenly, there were tiny footprints. On the roof, moving fast, circling, tapping. The boy laughed and whistled again. The lights twisted into a narrow rope and reached down like a hand. We all ran inside. The roof kept clicking all night. In the morning, the boy's red scarf hung from the eave. It was tied into neat, perfect knots that none of us knew. The knots looked like faces with no eyes. The boy never whistled again. The elders said, "We told you. Do not call what can answer. 3 The empty cabin on the Yukon man on a snow machine lost his way in a storm and saw smoke from a cabin. He went in. The stove was hot. 2 metal cups sat on the table. A note said, 'Went for wood. Stay inside.' He waited. Snow pressed the window like a big, slow wave. Outside, heavy steps circled the cabin, but they did not sound like boots. They sounded like the legs of a big table. Dragged, lifted, dragged. The steps stopped at the door. A soft touch ran over the wood from top to bottom, like a long hand measuring the door's size. The man kept the latch down with his palm until his skin burned from heat. At dawn, the storm was gone. He stepped out and looked for the woodpile. There was no woodpile, only a stack of moose antlers, tall as a person, arranged in a perfect ring around the cabin. His own tracks in were the only human prints point for the ice road. A truck driver on the Dalton Highway saw a woman in a white parka raise her thumb. He stopped. She sat beside him without a sound and put her hands in her lap. Her hair smelled like the river, cold and iron. She asked about his brothers by name. He had never met her. She asked for one thing: please stop on the bridge. I want to see the water. He stopped. She opened the door and stepped out. The bridge had waist-high rails, then empty air. She did not look down or up. She was just gone. On the inside of his windshield, 10 frost fingerprints bloomed like white flowers, each the size of a child's thumb. At the next station, an old worker heard the name the driver spoke and said, "She drowned here in 1982. Do not give rides to the river." The driver nodded and drove on, but the prints stayed on the glass until spring. 5 The drummer under the permafrost. A small road crew dug a trench near the remains of an old village. The ground was soft because the permafrost had melted. When the excavator bucket touched dirt, a steady drum began under the ground. Boom, boom, boom. Slow, calm, not metal, not rock. A rhythm like a heart that will not stop. They shut the machine and listened. The drum got louder when they stood still and softer when they moved. At night in their trailers, the sound came from the floor. Boom, boom, boom. One worker placed his hand flat to feel it. The beat matched his own pulse. For a minute, then pushed his pulse faster, like a hand on his chest. In the morning, they filled the trench with gravel and left without finishing the job. A week later, a small sinkhole opened where they had dug. From inside it, you could hear nothing. But if you put your ear to the earth beside it, the drum was there, patient and slow. 6 The sled dog Circle A musher tied his team for the night in a big circle. Each dog faced outward. The dogs refused to eat. They stared into the dark at the same spot between 2 spruces. At 2 a.m., something stood at that edge. It was tall and narrow, with arms that hung too low and a face as blank as snow. It did not move its legs. It glided. Then it made a sound. It copied the alpha dog's bark. Perfect. Same pitch. Same timing. The alpha shivered but did not answer. The thing copied another bark, then another, until it had spoken like every dog in the circle. It waited, patient, and then leaned forward, like it was smelling the camp. The musher kept his eyes on the ground and whispered a rule: do not answer. Do not look in the face. By dawn, the thing was gone. One lead dog's line was braided into tight, clean patterns, like nets. The paw prints around the camp went up the trunk of a spruce and stopped 10 feet high. 7. The blue window at the tunnel. The town, near the Whittier Tunnel, lives inside one building for winter. At night, a blue light glowed in a window on the wrong wall. You could see it when the tunnel was closed and the road was empty. The next day, people checked. That wall had no window. Inside, in the small museum, there was a black and white photo from the 1970s. It showed the same blue window on that wall, with a caption, removed after the accident, 1974. The caption did not say what accident. That night, everyone in our group received the same photo on their phones. It showed us standing in the street, looking up at the blue light. The picture was taken from inside the window. 8. The fisherman's extra hooky fisherman set a line through a hole in the sea ice. He pulled and pulled. Something heavy held the end. When it came up, it was not a fish. It was a huge rusted hook with a strand of hair twisted around the barb. The hair was not frozen. It was soft and warm between his fingers. He dropped it back and whispered, "Sorry." The sonar screen on the boat flashed and went to 0 depth, even though the bay there is deep. The water under the ice turned as black as a curtain. He placed 2 fish heads at the hole and said, "For you." When he came back the next day, the fish heads were gone. In his coat pocket he found a new hook, bright, silver and clean, tied with the same knot he learned from his grandfather. He swore he did not put it there. He never fished that spot again. 9. The plane that landed itself. Bush pilot flew home in a fast snow. The radio died. The GPS spun and blinked. He saw runway lights ahead and thanked the sky. The wind changed on its own and guided his small plane down as soft as a hand. He rolled to a stop by a shack, shut the engine, and fell asleep in the seat. In the morning, the runway lights were gone. The shack was only 3 walls. The 4th side was sky. His GPS track showed his final position 20 miles away on a completely different strip. He walked around his plane and saw only one set of tire lines. They led forward to the end of the flat ground and then off the edge of a small cliff. But the plane stood behind that edge on clean snow, as if it had been set there from above. He did not ask questions. He warmed the engine and left a jar of coffee on the shack floor. 10. The house that blinks there is a house near the coast that everyone left long ago. From the road you can see the curtains open and close once every hour on the hour, like a slow blink. A friend dared me to go inside at noon. We stepped over the threshold and the air tasted like cold pennies. Every clock inside showed the same time, 3:17. The hands did not move. Water sounded under the floor, but when we looked under the house, the ground was dry. In the living room, we found a family photo in a frame. The glass was dusty. The photo showed a father, a mother, 2 children, and someone else at the edge. The someone else was me as a small child, holding a toy I used to own. I have never been in that house before. We left without touching anything. That night, my phone recorded a voicemail by itself. It was the sound of our boots on those creaky boards. At the end came a breath at the mic and a whisper that was almost, but not exactly, my voice. It said my name the way my mother does when dinner is ready. There are many more stories, but these are enough to carry in your pocket when the dark gets long. People say Alaska is empty. It is not. It is full of air that remembers, ice that listens, water that trades. If you go there, keep these simple rules. Do not answer the wind when it uses a voice you love. Do not whistle at the aurora because it will come closer to hear you. Do not stare at faces that look almost human. Keep your light low and your steps steady. Make small gifts to the places that let you pass, and leave when the land tells you to leave. The cold will still bite, but it will not bite your name.